For those who drink diet soda, it may make you wonder, is it addictive?
Headlines this morning about a new study that says drinking diet soda could be dangerous to your health.
A GMA medical alert. Can diet sodas make you gain weight?
Now to major lawsuits targeting 3 of the biggest diet soda brands, accusing them of misleading marketing.
In the middle of the 21st century, there was a new discovery, a chemical that could allegedly taste almost identical to traditional sugar, yet it had a fraction of the calories. The early studies of these chemicals came back, and some frightening results. Bladder cancer, diabetes, and changes to your gut. It's been almost half a century since then, so it's time to find out what really happens. Mainstream artificial sweeteners started developing around the 1960s with the rise of aspartame and saccharin. While these are hard to pronounce, they are actually rather straightforward to understand. The natural way to understand how these work is that most artificial sweeteners are hundreds of times sweeter than sugar. So, to sweeten a can of soda, you only need a small fraction of the sweetener. For example, a regular can of soda only requires less than 1 gram of sweetener, but 34 grams of sugar. Now, it turns out that if you try to replace a major ingredient with some untested chemical compositions, people aren't very comfortable with ingesting them in mass. Thankfully, that is why we have places like the FDA. They help to study and review studies done by universities and organizations to determine if something should be sold to consumers. Now, I can't go over every single sugar substitute submitted to the FDA over the last half a century. However, we can go over 2 sweeteners and review some claims made about them or the ones similar to them. This will help us understand where these fears come from and to see if these fears are valid or not. First, there's sucralose. This is the replacement that is made by substituting chlorine into regular sugar. Now, despite chlorine being dangerous, not everything that contains chlorine is dangerous. For example, monoxide can be lethal in carbon monoxide, yet dihydrogen monoxide is consumed daily by everybody on Earth. To write it in a more professional manner, I'll refer to the Department of Health. Quote, sucralose is extremely insoluble in fat and thus does not accumulate in fat as do some other organic chlorides. Sucralose also does not break down and dechlorinates only under conditions that are not found during regular digestion. In determining the safety of sucralose, the FDA reviewed data for more than 110 studies in humans and animals. After looking at all the evidence and the studies, the FDA concluded that sucralose is safe for human consumption. Second, there's aspartame, which is made from a bunch of chemicals that I cannot pronounce and will not try to pronounce. If we look at its safety, reviews by over 100 governmental regulatory bodies found that the ingredient is safe for consumption at current levels. As of 2018, several reviews by clinical trials showed that using aspartame in place of sugar reduces the intake of calories by the body and reduces body weight in adults and children. These reviews of chemicals are great, but it's also important to understand where so much fear for these chemicals came from. The year is 1970, and Canada is freaking out. They have just gotten a study stating that saccharin, a common artificial sweetener, was causing high levels of cancer in male rats. So what did they do? They banned it. Soon, the FDA, not wanting to let their citizens start dying en masse from cancer, considered banning it themselves. The attempt to ban it was made, however, Congress blocked it, done on grounds that they did not want to freak out the public and they wanted to study its results first. Studies done in the years after this panic discovered why there was such a high rate of cancer in these rats. Rats could not digest saccharin properly. To some, this would still sound alarming. After all, why would we consume something poisonous to rats? But owners of dogs can understand this better, as the rats cannot process the sweetener in the same way that dogs cannot digest chocolate. It's not because the item is lethal, rather their bodies don't have the proper digestive capabilities that humans do. So, does this make saccharin safe? Does it make it healthy or trusted? Well, not entirely. Countries and studies around the world are mixed on exactly how safe it is. However, it's closer to the side effects of regular bacon consumption than the regular consumption of cigarettes. So, what does all of this research mean? Honestly, it's not a straightforward answer. For safety, it varies. There are very safe sweeteners like aspartame and sucralose. However, there are a few sweeteners that can be more controversial, like stevia leaves and saccharin. In my opinion, the most common sweeteners should be treated like a slightly better version of sugar. These sweeteners won't help you lose weight by removing the other unhealthy ingredients in diet soda. However, they do not decay your teeth in the same ways that traditional sugar does. In a very anticlimactic summary, sweeteners won't do more harm than sugar, but they won't solve your sweet tooth problem either.